You're watching World Championship Wreckage. Professional wrestling history the way the fans remember. Brought to you by Rivet City Radio and the World Championship Wreckage YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Today's episode.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It's season 2, baby. We're changing it up. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wreckage here on World Championship Wreckage's YouTube channel. As always, I am your friendly neighborhood dad hat wearing wrestling fan. Joined with me, as always, my two buddies. One, right beside me from Rivet City Radio and Bot Spots and Share Shots. A chef by trade, a mark by choice. Also, one of my best friends, the Will Gray. What's up, sir? How we doing? You're muted. You're muted.
Fuck, guys. This is my first night on the job. I'm just really glad to be here. My mic's not even over here. It's like still open. It's a fiasco. I'm here. It's great to see everyone. Karlee, it's great to meet you. XLJ, I hugged you less than a week ago, or a little over a week ago. And DadHat, I miss you.
I miss you too, my friend. And below me, from Cole TV, if you can't tell what we're talking about today is by his outfit, we got none other than XLJ, the OG. What's up, buddy?
I'm doing great, and that's XLJTheoriginal. I cannot wait to talk about some Double J here tonight. It's going to be an awesome episode.
And I don't know if it's just my internet connection or what, but you sound like a robot right now.
Probably me, because I had some problems earlier. We were doing Learning the Ropes live, so I do apologize in advance, but you can see I'm still here. I'm ready to talk some Jeff Jarrett. Hopefully it won't be too distorted.
Well, we had to bring on a special guest for this episode because it's kind of a newly formed fan of what we're talking about today. I told her I was going to make her a fan.
That's a strong statement, but okay.
By the end of the show, my goal is to make you bow down at the altar that is Jeff Jarrett.
I'm looking for the challenge.
Ain't he great? But yes, folks, we are talking about none other than JEFFJARRETT. And, you know, people give him crap. People give him a lot of shit. But he's got a very lengthy, long career. Then we're going to jump into it and hit some of the highlights, talk about, you know, big moments in his career, what we thought about different angles he's worked and everything. So I'm going to start with all of you. But first, I want to start with my buddy from Tennessee over here, the Jarretts. I mean, synonymous with Tennessee wrestling. For you, what was the first time you heard of the Jarretts? Was it his dad, Jerry Jarrett? Was it his grandmother? Was it the USWA? Was it Continental Wrestling? Like, what, being in Tennessee, there, like the homestead of Jeff Jarrett, what's your first memory and thought with Jeff Jarrett?
Well, I'm from Nashville. Jeff Jarrett still to this day owns property in a little town called Hendersonville, where his house sits is 5 minutes from Gallatin High School. I could walk to high school, and I graduated from Gallatin. The Jarretts have always been when people say things like a family owns a town. Do you guys know that old, like that small American, like southern town, like so and so owns the city?
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
In a wrestling sense, that's how it was in Nashville for the Jarretts. They were kind of the gatekeepers for the Nashville and Memphis territories, along with Jerry Lawler, in a sense that if you came into Nashville and you wanted to run a show somewhere near or in that territory, it went through Jerry Jarrett, it went through Jerry Lawler, and those guys were kind of those people for that Memphis and Nashville territory. For me as a kid in my fandom, the first time I remember watching Jeff wrestle recently, my sister and I had a conversation about it, was like 1994, because she was only like 5 years old and I was only like 8 or 9. And we searched for hours on Cage Match because our dad took us. So it was one of our first shows that we could both confirm that we went to. It was Jeff Jarrett was on the card. Jerry Lawler was on the card. Road Dogg was on the card when he was still
the roadie.
Yeah. There were a few other. Bart Gunn was on the card, like primos, like mid 90s, like guys that weren't in WWE yet, but by the Attitude Era were like the mainstays. And it was fucking great. So I'm a little bit older than everybody. So that's it.
Hey, we're right there together. We're right.
Oh, yeah, we're pretty close.
Yeah. XLJ, what about you? First memory, first thought of Jeff Jarrett.
So my first memories with Jeff Jarrett and the Jarretts in general, I really have to go back to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, those magazines, and just remember reading about this USWA area. And it was just like, oh, okay, they mentioned the Jarretts quite a bit. And then I can remember, like, lo and behold, one day on WWE television, who shows up in a vignette but one Jeff Jarrett, adorned in some of the most beautiful attire. And, you know, this is back in the day, too, where, you know, with the gimmicks, it was like some type of a job or some type of there was some niche or whatever. It was like, okay, we're bringing Jeff Jarrett to the WWF as a country singer. And I just was thinking, like, you know, there was something about it. Like, I just was like, I don't know. Like, I just, like, he looked cool, but at the same time, I was like, fuck this guy because I hate country music. Like, I hated country music. So I was just like, okay. And then just seeing him on.
My heart by saying that, man. But I listen to everything, so.
But this was back, like, well, growing up here in like the Midwest, where like country music is predominant, like you just kind of you can only listen to Garth Brooks for so much. Although now I do have an appreciation for the man, but this teenage Jeremy, young XLJ, not so much. Fuck it. But anyways, so that's some of like my first real memories, and then like watching him in the ring, and it was like, oh shit, this guy is good, you know. Even though the attire was a little loud with the male stripper, you know, the little straps with the tights and stuff, but you know, there was something about Jeff Jarrett though. It's weird. Like my whole tenure with Jeff Jarrett, I know we're gonna do deeper dives on this episode, but it's kind of always been a love-hate relationship. But at the end of the day, ultimately, I'm to this point in my life where like I respect the fuck out of the man, because I mean his career is just like, it's crazy what all he's done. But to answer your question, that's kind of some of my first memories of Jeff Jarrett.
Karlee, I know you're a newer viewer to Jeff Jarrett. What was it? Just AEW that he's made you kind of take notice of him?
Actually, no. What I realized, because I was like, you know, after talking to him and everything, I was like, you know, why do I hate Jeff Jarrett so much? Like, and I was just kind of going back, and I realized in WCW, of course, everyone remembers Mongo. I think just by default, my parents were Bears fans. Please don't kill me, everybody.
No, the Bears, bear down. We are going to win the fucking NFC North this year. I'm a huge Bears fan.
Wait, you're a Bears fan?
Fuck yeah.
No shit?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can cuss. We don't give a
Okay.
shit.
Well, okay. But
It's our year, damn
okay,
it. It is our
that's
year.
cool. I
We're
did
winning the
not
North.
even think.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Huge Bears.
See, I thought when I was going to mention about how, Mongo being part of the Bears, and that's why, like, at first I was like, ooh, okay. And because my mom had mentioned it, because I was, gosh, this is like 96, 97. So I was like 4 or 5. But I was just like, she was like, oh, okay. He's from the Bears. And I was like, well, we like the Bears. I like this guy. And I think it was Jeff Jarrett having that feud with him and like everything with the Four Horsemen at that point and taking Deborah and all that jazz. I think it was just something about from then on. I was like, you know what? There's just something about this guy's face. I don't like him. And it was like at the same time, I was
People
like,
say the same thing about me, so it's okay.
But but at the same time, I was fighting that, okay, he's good in the ring, but I don't want to admit it. So it's like, you know what? I can't with this guy. I don't know. I think that was just the root of what really started my hate, loathing at that point, I guess.
Loathing.
But I mean, over time, it was just that, seeing him in TNA and, everything like that. I think that love hatred within, I was just like, that I feel like he was what MJF is trying to be right now. I know that's kind of
that's a big statement. Yeah.
I mean,
Batman is a hot take.
Have a lot of,
that's a clip right there.
That's a hot take.
Yeah.
But she ain't wrong.
But I think in the sense of just being someone that it's almost like it's like it's wrong to cheer for them. But even though it's like, you know what? This man's done some pretty good stuff. And then just, looking up different things. And, I do respect what the man has done. It was just, like I said, my first memory of him, and like just him against Mongo and me loving Mongo and stuff at that point. I think that was what was that first little nail in the coffin there at first.
Yeah. Well, for me, we have talked. I grew up as a WCW kid, of course, but surprisingly, my first memories and my first thoughts of Jeff Jarrett are not in WCW. It is not with the Horsemen. It is not even WWE in terms of, him and the Roadie and everything. It's his later stint. After I had started changing channels, it was him and Deborah. And of course, teenage DadHat. I was very, very glued to the television anytime Deborah walked on stage.
Did you want to see the puppies? You wanted to see the puppies.
Shout out to, I remember having to beg my father, when my parents were divorced, you sure you don't want, he would order me pay-per-views very sporadically. You sure you don't want to buy the Rock Bottom pay-per-view? Because there's a stipulation where if Jarrett lost, that she had to strip. But again, teenage DadHat. But it was really what got me first really being a fan of him was the tag team of him and Owen Hart. Luckily they did have a run with the belts and everything, but I loved them together. And I think seeing Jeff and all the emotion come out in that tribute show to Owen, to me, that was one of the hardest ones of the entire night, was watching him. And so that's kind of, I was just like, man, he plays a great bad guy, but man, he behind the curtain, he's got a big heart. But yeah, so we'll run down some. I'm gonna pull up my notes here, so I actually look and seem like I know what the hell I'm doing here. I'm trying to be like Will here and actually doing research. But so we mentioned this. He started with his dad's company, Continental Wrestling, back in '86. Like you said, being family, owning a town completely. But you hear this name a lot. The USWA, the United States Wrestling Association. That was where he really kind of got his feet wet. It's where he started. He was the USWA Southern Heavyweight Champion 10 times, USWA Tag Champion on 15 occasions. So I mean, this is my thing right here that I think a lot of people, why they are not a Jeff Jarrett fan. Two reasons. You look at this, his early start. Yes, he's under his father's, umbrella and everything, winning championships. And a lot of people know him from TNA, starting that up and everything. And what did he do? The Jeff Jarrett power trip. Just like the Triple H power trip, it's my company. I'm going to be on top. I'm going to be the one holding the main title and everything. So I think, to me, that's the reason why most people are so against Jeff Jarrett. Would you say that's an accurate assumption, y'all?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I truly believe, Jarrett did some great heel stuff, but that to me is like the definitive why people hate Jarrett is for those early years of TNA. But it goes back to the age-old adage, in wrestling, you start up your own promotion, you put the belt on the guy you can trust, who's going to be there. It's Jeff Jarrett's company, so it's not like he's not gonna no-show something or whatever, And
Right.
the thing is, I can remember at the time, because I mentioned love-hate with Jarrett. I hated Jarrett during the TNA because I was just like, I was fucking over it. But the thing is, I tuned in, I watched because I wanted to see somebody beat Jeff Jarrett for that TNA championship.
Right.
And he did some amazing stuff in those years, putting over some amazing talent. Think of what he did for AJ Styles in that time frame. Jeff Jarrett, like during that time frame, definitely was doing some of his best work as far as I'm concerned.
Will?
So there's a phrase in wrestling, you have to bet on yourself. And for some reason in my wrestling fandom, I always pick the people that people hate the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Same.
Vince Russo. Like, I'm a Russo guy. You know what I mean? I'm a Lawler guy. I'm a Jarrett guy. Here's why. Jarrett always bet on himself in the best possible ways. His dad bet on Jerry bet on Jeff and helped get him to that Southern Heavyweights title. Jeff bet on Jeff to promote himself up to that main event spotlight there. That leveraged to him going to Atlanta and WCW. That WCW push leveraged and bet on himself to get him elevated to be in WWF, to have that 98 run, to be the North American champion going in the Rumble, to feud with Owen, to becoming tag champs with Owen, to elevating himself one step further, to going back to WCW on a main event contract, 7 figures, guaranteed money, world championship. WCW folds. He starts TNA with his old man, just like TK. When he started AEW, he put the belt on the most over person with the most recognizable face and with the best, like all of the boxes were checked on the person that was going to put the most butts in seats. And at the time in 2002, it was fucking Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Like even now in AEW, Tony Khan, as much as people hate to admit it, and you've got the learning tree and all of that nonsense, if you really want to test somebody's mettle, and it's not with Bryan Danielson, see how they handle working with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of your measuring stick. If Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal go like, yeah, this guy can work, they get that next level push to go work with Bryan Danielson. Like he's always kind of been that measuring stick anywhere he's ever been, even today. Thanks for coming to my Will Talk.
It's a good way to. It's a great way to look at it. I'm gonna move past the USWA kind of tab and everything. But Karlee, how much do you know about the whole initial WWE run, with the roadie, with the country music singing Jeff Jarrett?
I'll be honest, vaguely. I had to more so go into like watching it, like as I got older and watching like older episodes of, WWF and everything to really get to see what, Jeff Jarrett was and everything. And even with the countries, I think to go along with like what Will said and everything about, like betting on yourself, I think just in general, a lot of people don't like when people bet on themselves. I know that's like a weird thing, but it's like it almost gives off like you're overconfident, you're cocky, but it's like, it's okay to realize what you are and the talent that you have and to showcase it.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that. And I think regardless of any stage of Jeff Jarrett, he's always been Jeff Jarrett, and you can't write that. So
Yeah. Well, I love the initial WWE run with him and Road Dogg, where Road Dogg was the roadie, and sorry kids if you haven't seen this, it's that old now. Spoiler alert. Jeff Jarrett's lip syncing, and the roadie.
I can't wait to be alone with my baby tonight. Sorry, I had to get that in.
Every time I hear that song, though, I think of it. Just for some reason, even though it's not the same song, it just makes me think of Anchorman and Afternoon Delight for some reason. I don't know why.
Nice.
But it was great, and I mean, it made Road Dogg. I mean, instead of just being an Armstrong, it made him something else.
Mhm.
Like it was the start of Road Dogg.
Foot in the door.
Yeah. So it was a super cool. I mean, but I mean, look at the presentation he got back then. The glasses, the glowing glasses, the big cowboy hat, the double J's. Like they made it look like you were at a concert with the spinning fireworks and all that.
Mhm.
Like the presentation was great, but then you get into the ring and he can actually go. And of course, we go to WCW. We go to WCW. There's the rundown with Mongo and everything, but he was a horseman. Like
Yep.
there's a lot of different variations of horsemen.
Right.
Where in your rankings, y'all, is like a scale of 1 to 10? Where's Jarrett on the horseman scale?
Ooh.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. Was he truly a horseman?
I mean, he came out throwing up the fours enough.
I mean,
Yeah,
they
but he was-
never officially
That's
said
a
he
good
was a horseman. To my recollection, anyway. I mean, it was
He's,
kind of a foregone conclusion, but
I'm trying to think of a good analogy. He is like R-Truth is to Judgment Day what
That's
Jeff
a
Jarrett was to the Four Horsemen.
that's a great
He was a
analogy. Flip
hang
that.
around.
Oh
He
my
was a
God,
hang
that's
around.
great.
Okay.
Like when
I'll
you
give you
think of
that.
the Four Horsemen, especially in WCW, you think Malenko, Benoit, Flair, and then that fourth one usually floats around some, but I usually don't think Jeff Jarrett when I think of that fourth spot.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. Even though he technically may or may not have been a horseman, he's still a better Four Horseman than Paul Roma. I said what I said.
Wow, that's a take.
Let us know how you really feel there, XLJ.
Oh,
That's
I'm
gonna
about
be
to
your
let
topic,
you
isn't
know.
it? That's gonna be your topic next week, isn't it?
Yeah,
Paul
we're
Roma?
gonna talk Paul Roma.
Um,
That'll last 5 minutes and we're done.
Hey, we pulled an hour out of our asses for Disco Inferno.
I guess the least we could do is get 15 for Paul Roma.
by the way, I was talking to Sabrina sidetrack. I was talking to Sabrina the other day about that, and I said, by the way, I commented on something she said. She's like, wow, see, that just sounds like guilt for making me do a whole episode about Disco Inferno. And I was like, I'll tell you what, you can come back on and we will discuss any topic you want, anything whatsoever. She's like, I will come back on. Let me think what topic I want to bring to the table. And I was like, open floor. Like, for making you discuss Disco Inferno, open floor. Like, but she's like, this just sounds like guilt for making me talk about disco. And I was like, ooh, that hurt. That one hurt.
I'm so glad I wasn't on that episode.
I don't know how we pulled out the time. I don't know. I mean, you need to watch it just to see Sabrina's face the entire time. She's like,
I make it about 30 minutes into it, and I literally out loud in the episode am like, look,
Explode.
I have said everything good I can say about this fucking dude now. For the rest of the episode, I'm dogging his ass.
yeah. You just see like the switch change from Will.
It's like my notes are gone from here on out. It's nothing but shit talking.
Yeah. Well, WCW happens, and we get back into that late '90s. We get into back to that late '90s run, and we mentioned him with Owen. Before we get there, though, Will's brought it up on a couple of different episodes. Will, talk to us a little bit about the importance of Jarrett coming back and the NWA influence and what they were trying to do. Because Jarrett comes in being a representative of the NWA, which at this point is dead.
Historically speaking, going in before the NWA and TNA partnership, what they were doing with WCW, the easiest way to put it, they were floundering. Essentially, they were three letters without a home.
Mm-hmm.
They went from being the biggest promotion in the country to being a managerial force, governing body over all the independents.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the independents broke up in 86, essentially, and then the territory started dying down after McMahon started cherry picking all the TV deals out, the NWA was just kind of a shell. It was a group of titles that were essentially floating around any promotion that would book them. And what Jeff Jarrett wanted to do was he wanted to keep the legacy alive of what the NWA had represented prior to WCW and the Turner buyout. He wanted to kind of adapt that and bring that into WCW in the late 90s. That's how we eventually ended up with the 10 pounds of gold in TNA, was because he wanted that landing spot to add the prestige back to those titles. And that's why when it went into Global Force, he tried to absorb the TNA title into Global Force, and it was a whole mess because him and his family always saw the NWA as the cream of the crop. Yeah. They were never McMahon people, so to speak. They were always under the impression that the NWA was the big one. And when they dissolved, that was the last-inch effort of them trying to recoup any of those losses from what was left of the NWA. XLJ, you want to add anything to it? That's roughly where my brain went with it.
Well, I mean, you also get 98. Yeah. I mean, in 98, he comes in WWF, hair slicked back.
As the North American champion.
As the NWA North American champion on WWF television.
Yeah, and you also brought in a couple guys too. You have Barry Windham who comes in to the play. You also get the Rock and Roll Express as well involved in this.
Have you seen this, Karlee? Like early 98, this NWA invasion?
It very shortly.
Of course not at the time, but of course with looking and watching back, yes.
Okay. It was weird.
Yeah. The one thing I remember about it when they brought Jarrett back in too, is the vignette, the sit down interview that he had with Jim Ross, because this is a time frame when WWF was really kind of experimenting and doing those like quote unquote raw interview vignettes. We all remember the ones with like Mankind and like Gold Dust, and where it's just like, we're just speaking real life. And then also too, from that stemming from that interview, if I recall correctly, I may be wrong on this, guys, but I believe there was some real life heat with Steve Austin from that promo or that vignette because of some of the stuff that he said in there.
There's definitely been rumors and reports and out there that Austin didn't want to do business with Jarrett.
Yeah, and we don't know how true that truly is, but I do remember, hearing inklings of rumors that Austin and Jarrett just there was something there.
Mm-hmm. Which is weird. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the importance of Jeff Jarrett working with China.
Oh yeah.
Like China winning the Intercontinental Championship.
Yep.
the first woman to hold the IC title, and wins it off Jeff Jarrett.
Oh.
I think we just killed Will.
I think you just made Will's head explode. I would like to talk real briefly here. I think something we got to mention is Jeff Jarrett's runs as the Intercontinental Champion. Oh, there it is. Don't tell me like a woman.
DadHat was with me when I found that.
I was with you when,
Okay,
it's
so this
mint.
isn't something. This isn't something you have from the past. So this is something you recently picked up.
Yeah, we were at a comic book store, and this dude had. It was an honest comic book store. It wasn't like a a comic book store, but they had a whole section that was nothing but like vintage Playboys and penthouses. So I was like, fuck it, let's go through and look and see if they have any of the WWFs that I don't already have.
Yeah.
And it's primo. Like,
it was in great condition.
Great condition, and it was 50% off. So I only paid like $7.
Yeah, you paid nothing for it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like,
oh, that's cheap.
Not to mention the fact that she's smoking hot.
Yeah.
Like 14-year-old Will wouldn't have thought so. 39-year-old Will is like, yeah, she's smoking hot.
But yeah, I think the runs Jeff Jarrett had as Intercontinental Champion don't get nearly enough love. And this may be a hot take. I think Jeff Jarrett is easily one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time.
Oh,
I would put him in top 10 easily.
Mount Rushmore for me.
I can see that.
Before tonight, I had already said that, but like for sure, Mount Rushmore.
Great chemistry with Razor. You know, I mean, him and Razor has Sean. Yeah, I mean, he showed that he could go with main eventers, whether they were main eventers at the time or they eventually got to the main event spot. He could go with them and stay on their
course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was one of the all-time great Intercontinental champions. I loved his run in like 95. I loved the stuff he was doing in 99. You know, we're talking now the era too of the "Don't Piss Me Off" era with Jarrett. Loved because you mentioned earlier we talked about the NWA because we kind of go through a weird period where it's like, okay, let's go back to the country singer gimmick, and it's like, okay, we're just gonna go ahead and put you with the former Colonel Robert Parker, the Tennessee Lee, as we brought him into the WWF as the manager of one Jeff Jarrett, which was just fucking weird. But I mean, not weird that like that pairing, but just like I don't know, it just was like why are we going from this back to this? And then I think really the turning of the corner for Jarrett really in the Attitude Era, as you go back to DadHat, probably I think it's your favorite SummerSlam of all time, SummerSlam '98, where you have the hair versus hair match, and thus we're starting to get this new attitude of Jeff Jarrett. Once he gets that haircut, man, it's the "Don't piss me off, I'm hitting everybody with guitars." Jeff Jarrett
lost the big shiny strap type of gear, was into just like the shorts.
DadHat.
Yeah.
Do you happen to remember or have it? You and we had this conversation
about guitars,
and my side of my spicy brain.
I'm literally searching for it right now.
And I went through his cage match and averaged his matches out for when he started breaking guitars verbatim from him. Like, this is when I started doing it to this is when my last one was. If I was on TV, I broke it. If I had a match, I broke a guitar from this year to this year. We averaged it out. I want to say it was something ridiculous.
Oh, it was a lot. I'm going to see if I can find
$3 million on guitars throughout his career. Because he explained in WCW, they were buying like name brand guitars instead of buying like little cheap knockoffs. Because he was like, through the indies, they were all knockoffs. But he was like in WCW, they were like Fenders and Taylors and shit like that. And I was like, oh, shit. So I was hoping you had it because there's not a chance.
Our brain just syncs up. Like, I mean,
it immediately popped into mine. I was like, we had this conversation like 2 years ago, and I remember like breaking it down analytically and being like, well, if he did this many guitars per the year and we divided by this much money, like this is how much he spent through his career.
Literally broken down. Like, I don't know why I didn't think about looking for this earlier, but I'll look for it as
It just clicked in my brain that I've done this. I'm sorry, guys. This is your show.
Oh, I'm fascinated to know the actual. I didn't know that about WCW. It doesn't shock me that they just say fuck it and get a guitar, and not try to do something practical. But
me and DadHat went for like 3 days with this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I literally just threw out I wonder how much money was spent on guitars, or how many guitars, and
it was how many guitars, because then I was like, fair, because we were talking about it, because we were covering a pay-per-view, and we talked about the nitros leading up to it, then the pay-per-view, and then the nitros heading out of it. And one of the things that got brought up was the amount of guitars this man was busting on people's faces. And then we were like, I wonder how many guitars he's done through his career. And that evolved into me going, somebody who has spent some time on the indies, a cup of coffee, as they say, and I know how fucking dirt cheap independent promoters are. I'm like, how much were these independent promoters spending for this man to bust guitars over people's faces? And it turns out, guys, a ridiculous amount of money.
Ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
Ridiculous amount of money.
I'm not getting hot dogs or handshakes, but promoters are spending hundreds of dollars on guitars.
That's insane.
Oh my God, that's great.
I have to be like, can I at least get a hamburger and a handshake? Like, I don't like hot dogs. Like,
slice of pizza, Coke,
yeah, like
right.
Thai food, something like that. Now y'all are making me hungry. I mean,
melted candy bar from the snack stand.
Yeah.
I'll take some stale sweet tarts. I don't care.
Yeah.
Since the episode started, I've eaten an entire pack of Sprees.
Respect.
I've got some Takis, and I've got some freeze-dried Red Hots, just in case.
Oh no, I'm sitting here going, damn it, why did I not grab my Oreos before I came in here? Anyway, so we get through. We work with China. We pass the title. There's the infamous story that Jeff Jarrett, held up the title and pretty much held up Vince McMahon for money before he would do the business, or he would walk out with the IC title. Whether that happened or not, I mean, it's. Have you heard this story, Karlee?
Yeah, I heard, and I could have sworn didn't, because I was looking up something yesterday, and it was saying that he said something along the lines of he paid what he owed me, but it wasn't some threat type thing or something.
It wasn't it was. Yeah, it wasn't like, hey, you owe me $15 million. Like, pay me what I'm due for the shots that I made. But
right.
I mean, but on the other hand, it was Vince McMahon's business. In all reality, that belt is his property. And also, belts are important, but at the end of the day, a belt is a prop. It is. I mean, it's the most prestigious prop in that business, but it's also theater. I mean, that's my whole take on wrestling forever. It's theater, and that's the prop that goes with it.
I don't know if you guys know this either about pro wrestlers, but they can be sort of prima donnas.
No,
they tend to be a little dramatic. There was this guy. You guys may have heard of him. His name is Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan.
Fuck you, Terry.
Fuck Terry. He's infamous for the phrase, "That doesn't work for me, brother." The screw job is because Vince was afraid that he was going to get screwed out of his own shit, so he screwed his champion on his way out. Medusa screwed Vince over and took the belt to the other guys. You look at it throughout history, Vince watches out for Vince because these prima donnas screwed him over as many times as he screwed them over. The end of this WWE run with this IC title was because Jeff was a smart person, and he said, the last 12 months of my career, I have not full creative control because Vince cut that shit off after Brett, but Jeff had a say in how he was going to be exiting the company, and that's what he was holding hostage, to my understanding. He wasn't going to let Vince write him off TV with some bullshit, so he kept turning stuff down, but because of that, that's why that end of his run almost seemed like a whole lot of stopping and waiting. You know what I mean? It didn't seem like it had a whole lot put together because they didn't know what to do with him, because he just kept turning ideas down because he had that little bit of creative control on how he was leaving the company.
I can't.
And again, it goes back to what I was saying about betting on himself. You know what I mean? Had he not performed in the USWA and Continental and WCW and everything building up to that, and got the NWA partnerships to get back into WWE and all of it, like, it's the wrestling business, and there's very few workers in the business that do business as good as Jeff Jarrett does.
Business with a
capital B and like 5 Z's at the end of that motherfucker.
All the S's.
BUSINESS.
And all the S's are dollar signs. Every S is a dollar sign at the end of the day. Welcome to our stance on pro wrestling, people. I mean, I think we all agree. Like, that's something we're all very much like. It's
Jeff. This is it. You can put this on TikTok. You ready? Okay. Jeff. The reason why people today don't like Jeff Jarrett is because Jeff Jarrett's a pro wrestler, not a fucking sports entertainer.
Facts.
Well, folks, okay. Now I got more. He got more. He got more career. Okay, we're gonna go into my favorite Jeff Jarrett era ever. Late 1990s WCW, weird ass NWO, Jeff Jarrett, World Heavyweight Champion, Slap Nuts, Triple K, the Vince Russo Triple Cage, the Chosen One, that era. I don't know why I love it so much. Maybe because it's such car crash TV, as Vince Russo would say. But I mean, he was like the Chosen One for a reason for Vince Russo in that time. I mean, the writing was on the wall, like how much he was gunning for that title, and the fact that he finally got it. It's a weird stage. It's a weird moment. It also gives us the weird. I mean, we've done an episode on it. Bash at the Beach 2000. Jeff Jarrett laying down for Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan, to then passing the torch to Booker T at the end of the night. It's a weird time. Karlee, what do you take away from that time frame with Jeff Jarrett? Because it's weird. It's towards the end of WCW is about to close.
Yeah, I think the main word would be weird for that. I mean, I was still in that stage of just being young and hating Jeff, but I was still like, this isn't okay. This is all right. It's weird. Okay.
XLJ. NWO, Jeff Jarrett, World Heavy, holding the belt that Dusty and Rick and Sting held. Thoughts?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is validation, because this is him finally in a major company, finally getting that world championship. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there's this aura over it, of it being, the Vince Russo era, where we'll love or hate Russo. But the one thing I do feel that hindered Jarrett during this time frame, just the fact that title was a hot potato.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Jeff Jarrett, I think, how many times was he WCW champion? 5 times? And that's within probably like a 6-month time span, if that.
Yeah.
In the last 8 months of the company, probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like
between 2000 and 2001, that stretch, he held it 5 times.
Yeah. So I think that took a little bit away from it, but at the same time, at least that's what I will say. This a young XLJ. That's kind of was the thoughts, was just like, oh, okay, what the fuck ever. But looking back on it now in hindsight, though, like, good for Jeff Jarrett finally getting like pushed as like a main event top guy. Because I mean, like you said, Will, he betted on himself. He deserved to be in that spot. And I mean, the thing is, we still quote like that's probably prime Jarrett, honestly, outside of TNA, really, because this is like, the same, slap nuts. Who didn't want the fucking slap nuts T-shirt? WCW
still want
with
it.
The guitar on. Yeah, right.
I can't wear it in front of my kids.
No.
Oldest one can read now.
No. But Jarrett during this time frame was hitting home runs, honestly. And I remember the shock.
Damn good heel. He's a great heel.
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett is the Dan Marino of the Miami Dolphins. He was a really fantastic wrestler on a roster that was on its way out. He wasn't going to win any Super Bowls in Miami in the fucking 70s and early 80s, but everybody says Dan Marino was one of the greatest to ever play the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Jarrett, in that 99, 2000, 2001 run in WCW when the doors were closing, he was one of the greatest on the planet to be wrestling, but nobody expected WCW to ever dethrone WWE again. Nobody expected them to ever be the best. What Flair was in that early 90s, and then when he came back in 93, like, he was that top for the guys that weren't WWE, Sting, then Jarrett and Booker T.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and DDP was in between the two. Like, when you think about your pillars of WCW, in my opinion, it's Flair and Sting and Booker, DDP, and Jeff Jarrett. Like, those are your big five.
And what I'm also taking away from that is that Jeff Jarrett's somewhere in Ace Ventura. I just have to go find him. As Dan Marino was. Anyway, I digress. Well, folks, WCW closes. And there's the infamous simulcast. There's, Vince, doing a backstage segment on what are we going to do with the Jeff Jarretts of the world, and he spells out his name, but he's going to spell a different word and fires them right there. So, I mean, he's come out in interviews and said, he never took that personally. It was, again, it's a business that he understand that Vince was, pushing storylines, whether he came back or not, but he did bet on himself, and he made a little company that, so many people said wasn't going to be around for a year, let alone 5, let alone 10. And yet here we are in the year 2024, and that company is still going.
That company's working with WWE, and Vince McMahon said in 2002 they wouldn't be around in 5 years. And now they're the first company since the NWA in 1998 to have a working relationship with WWE outside of New Japan in 2016 for 2 shows. But it's neither here nor there.
Amazing.
Yeah. TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. I mean, it was a funny name back in the day. Like I think most of us when we first they're naming it TNA, but we were still in that Attitude Era kind of mindset and everything. But Jarrett had some damn good storylines. I mean, it's got that personal side of it, but look at him and Angle. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful match. I still to this day, one of my favorite gimmick matches of all time is that damn King of the Mountain.
Just watched the first King of the Mountain match because Al had never seen it, and I was explaining her the concept and stuff, and I was like, "This was Jeff Jarrett's baby."
Yeah,
like
NXT kind of took it with that eliminator type thing where whatever is it called? Like
Iron Survivor? Well, no.
Yeah.
Iron Survivor Challenge or whatever.
Yeah, like it's other than having to hang the belt.
Yeah.
But that's the only. But being locked away in a cage after getting a pin, like that type of thing. But
it's an Iron Man match instead of a ladder match.
Yeah. But I mean, Karlee, have you seen many or any of the King of the Mountain matches?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it made it really easy for him to have cool, this is my match. This is what I win. They call me the King of the Mountain. It just, again, it fed into the heel. It fed into him being a really damn good bad guy.
Man, he was damn good during this era. This is my favorite, I think, Jarrett, which is funny because I look back at the time. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I fucking hated Jeff Jarrett during this time frame because of just his God. It was this is at the same time frame too where we get the Triple H era of him just burying everybody, and we're getting the same thing kind of over in TNA. But man, when you got that payoff when whoever it was that would beat Jarrett and dethrone him, was so good. And think about like all the amazing stars that come out of TNA and stuff, especially in this time frame. I mentioned AJ Styles earlier, but you look at the guy like Ron Killings, R-Truth.
Yep.
It's his first NWA World Championship run during this time frame as well. You look at a guy like Raven, who we all know and love from ECW, but in the WWF, obviously, it just didn't work. But here, we get this unique version of Raven. This more like, okay, this is like the badass Raven I remember.
Yeah, Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock. There's another one as well. So like so many great guys reborn and then that discovered during the early days of TNA wrestling. Man, it's amazing.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up his greatest feud in TNA against one Toby Keith.
Oh shit, we're going there, huh?
Yeah, man, I had to bring it up. It was a moment. So I'll be honest.
Badass suplex.
He just held him there. Yeah. I will be very honest. TNA is probably the blind spot for me in terms of wrestling. Like, I want TNA Plus or whatever it's called, literally just to go back and watch from day one and watch forward because I don't know TNA enough. Yes, Will.
I have TNA Plus if you want to start TNA on episode 1 so we can record it for YouTube. I'm fucking down.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We have to watch it together because I'll have to screen share it with you. But yeah, we can start on the very first episode of TNA. I have their catalog all the way back, all the way to the most recent pay-per-view. I have an episode to watch tonight. Yeah. Me and Bo split the yearly thing.
Yeah,
I cheat the system.
I've seen moments like I always watch their TNA, like when they do like the complete history of Main Event Mafia, the complete history.
Yeah.
I watch that stuff, but like I love that. But it's one of those things where like I know things that happened in TNA, I know good chunks of it, but like seeing the matches, like I know like it's definitely my blind spot in the pro wrestling history, at least in the US.
It's like my not my guilty pleasure, because that's not the right definition of it. It's like my my cult following. Like I would say I followed TNA. With it being here in Nashville, though, in the Asylum again in my backyard, like it was hard.
It makes sense.
I literally got free tickets. My single dad. He would pick me and my sisters up every other weekend, and we'd be like, "What are we doing?" And it'd be like, "We're going to TNA tapings and a fucking Sounds game. Like, what do you think we're doing? Like the same thing we do every other weekend."
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know a lot about this. Will or XLJ, you might, and I don't know how much Karlee knows about it. Can either of you explain kind of where and what happened and why we went from TNA and all of a sudden there was Global Force Wrestling?
Well,
I know Dixie Carter's part of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, maybe I'm bitter here, but I mentioned it earlier, but fuck Terry. You get Dixie coming in, and then of course they get the shit show of them bringing in Bischoff and Hogan, and them just like fucking. Because the thing is, like TNA at this point had built themselves, they'd set themselves apart, which wrestling needed desperately. Because at this point, it is just a fucking monopoly. It is all the WWE is the only show in town outside of TNA wrestling, and thank God TNA wrestling was around these years. But TNA had set itself up, with the six-sided ring, set themselves apart. The X division, the focus on that. Some amazing style matches. You mentioned earlier, King of the Mountain, the Ultimate X match. I mean, TNA was it was different, but it was cool. It was interesting. And then when you get that regime in with Dixie Carter, and then you get Hogan in, and oh, fuck it, brother. The six sides just ain't going to do it for me. We're going to have to go back to the square. I don't know. And this is the thing too. I think also too, they were like, okay, we've got to compete with WWE. You don't. In my opinion, you didn't. Fuck that. Focus and stay in your lane. Focus on your product because you have a great fan base here. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Will, but I think that's kind of when Jeff kind of went out, was with Dixie and when Hogan and Bischoff were all involved, right?
No, fantastic. You were right. Spot on. I'm gonna do a little shameless plug here for me. If you go back in my catalog a little bit, me and old Russo sat down and we talked about this era of TNA because they were doing the electrified steel cages and shit. And you missed a name on that list that a lot of people forget was in TNA around that time, and that was one Dirty Dutch Mantel. And what they were doing was, Russo came in a little bit later, mind you, but he said by the time he got there, these guys were throwing shit at the wall and seeing what was sticking. That's why they were doing electrified steel cages and stuff. He literally in the interview says that Dutch was just going back through his book from Puerto Rico and just being like, we did this match once. Do you guys want to try this? And that was how they were booking, stuff that got over in other territories. They were just trying it in TNA to see if anything would stick. And I applaud it because somehow when they were treading water in that, because of the, everything that was shifting, when the Jarretts washed their hands of it and they were done, like I don't want to say they did a good job, but TNA still survived it. Like,
Yeah.
Well, they say you can't ever go home again. Yeah, we got Jeff Jarrett inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Very well deserved. Should have been there. I thought that they could have used him a little bit more. There were times where I felt like Vince was like, all right, we're going to use you on camera, but you got to dress back up in the cheesy tights and the straps and the glasses. Like, you're that Double J country singing Jeff Jarrett. You're not, who cares what else you did? Which kind of burned me the wrong way. But we did get a Hall of Fame induction. Very well deserved. And to the shock of me, never expected to see him in AEW. And I swear if that man does not win the AEW championship before he's out of there, I'm going to lose my crap.
So this timeline, you forgot one very key aspect about this. Okay. So the last run in WWE, because there was his last run in WWE. Now hop in the Wayback Machine, SummerSlam 2022. He was the special guest referee at that SummerSlam here in Nashville.
Right. I forgot about
then
that.
The very next night, he wrestled in Ric Flair's last match, tagging with Jay Lethal against Andrade and Ric Flair. On Monday, the following week, WWE signed him to be the live VP of, live production or whatever, running their house shows and shit. He was in that position for about 6 months and left. And that's when TK scooped him up to do the same job at AEW. Because Jeff Jarrett essentially runs the live presentation of their shows.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, because he was doing the same job he does in AEW right now. He was doing in WWE a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when he got hired by AEW. Because people forget, right after that SummerSlam, he got hired to go backstage and work for Triple H. And he was only there for like 6 weeks. He was not there long at all. And then he just 86 and bounced.
Yeah.
So that's it. I like me some Double J. I just met him recently too.
Jealous. I would only settle for one thing from Jeff Jarrett, and that would be a signed guitar. But
same thing.
But yeah, my wife, she doesn't. She's the minimalist of the relationship, and I like my stuff. And
I seldom, when I work shows, I seldom do the meet and greets or pay to shake hands. Like if I don't have a chance to organically meet one of the boys, I'm not going to pay to do it. Right. Mm-hmm. When I had a chance to meet Jeff Jarrett, I paid to meet Jeff Jarrett, shake his hand, get the picture, get his autograph, do all the things. He broke a guitar that night, and they did a raffle to buy the guitar. We dropped like $20 on it. This lady bought $250 worth of tickets to make sure she fucking won that guitar.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. That's dedication. Wow.
Did she win it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. I would say putting that much, man. I mean,
no, it was.
You could have bought a cheap guitar and had him sign it.
It was the biggest show I've ever worked. There were almost 1,000 people there. And for an indie show, that's a pretty good size indie crowd.
Really good.
Yeah. Jeff Jarrett was main eventing. He was the guy there. It was a charity show here in town. Like fantastic stuff. But yeah, almost 1,000 people right at it. Like it's like hell yeah. And they auctioned it off. It was super cool. Super great guy, down to earth. Like yeah.
It's amazing to me in the twilight of his career here, as he, let's face facts, how many more years are we really going to get Jarrett? I think I mean, he's in phenomenal shape and stuff, but think about like all the different things that he has done in the past, 10 or 15 years or whatever. Like, you talk about like going to Mexico, working CMLL, working Tokyo Dome, working at a Wrestle
He was
Kingdom.
in the Bullet Club.
He was in the Bullet Club, yeah. I mean, you talk about, what is it, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You could do a 5 degrees of like fucking Jeff Jarrett wrestling, man, and you're going to connect them somehow with somebody. Hell, we even talk about we haven't really mentioned this, the Last Outlaw, with this stuff that he's done in TNA. But we also, let's not forget too, I don't know, Karlee's going to remember this very fondly. Let's not forget about Jeff Jarrett working in GCW, feuding with Effie.
I mean, she is the TikTok Queen of Extreme. I mean,
facts.
I do love me some GCW.
But Karlee, let me ask you this: like, as a diehard GCW fan, what did you think when like Jeff Jarrett of all people showed up in GCW?
Honestly, despite how I felt about him, I thought it was actually really kind of cool because it showed because of sorry, GCW with people is very polarizing, and I've noticed that just from really starting making a lot of content solely on GCW. I mean, people can, it's trash, it's this, it's whatever, and for someone like Jeff Jarrett, who literally is professional wrestling, to go into GCW and not just, say, hi and bye, but actually have a feud with someone, pretty fucking cool.
Gave some legitimacy. Like, gave that. Since you are, I mean, Jeff Jarrett, some of the storylines and everything. You haven't always been, the biggest fan of Jeff Jarrett. Do you have a favorite match that you've seen of him? I was going to say,
all of us.
I'm asking Karlee.
Oh, my
and I was going to say for Will and XLJ, be thinking of what's a match for Jeff Jarrett you would recommend her going to watch.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I think because for a long time I was just like, pushing him off. I don't think I could honestly, just pull out my ass like a favorite like that. But I think not just from you talking to me and harboring me of like, trying to like Jeff Jarrett and everything, but also just, I will say a favorite time period would be him in TNA, creating TNA and everything, because like I was said earlier, it was necessary. TNA had to happen just so it wasn't just WWE. It had to be something, and regardless of how people felt, again, polarizing at some points, being like, TNA is just, they'll never be WWE or they'll never be what, and it's like, and they're TNA. That's fine. But I don't think I can think of a favorite match, but that would be my favorite period. Of Jarrett.
Will, XLJ, any match that you would tell Karlee to go and watch?
Yeah,
for
please.
Jeff Jarrett?
Oh, yeah. I was sorry. I kind of jumped in there because I'm chomping at the bit. There's a couple that come to mind, but the first one would be, I don't know if it was the second or third in your house, but it's the Intercontinental title match between Jeff Jarrett and Shawn Michaels.
The Lumberjack.
That is no, it's not Lumberjack. It's just a straight up. I think there's So on that show, I think there is a lumberjack match, but it's with Sid and Diesel.
Okay.
But it's a straight up wrestling match.
I thought they had a lumberjack match for some reason.
They could have possibly, but that match is so fucking good.
Yeah.
It's peak Jarrett 95, man.
Yeah.
That I would definitely recommend that. I think one too that kind of goes under the bus and people don't really. I'd say a hidden gem. I think it was it Starcade? I think it's Starcade 99. Jeff Jarrett and Chris Benoit in a ladder match. Really, actually a really good match.
Okay.
I forgot about that match.
Those are a couple that come to mind.
Will?
The Good Housekeeping match with Chyna.
Yeah.
When she won the IC title. And then this isn't a match because of he doesn't play any huge role in it, but it's the catalyst for him and Owen, and that's the 98 Royal Rumble. I brought that up prior in the episode when he's the North American champion. He jumps Owen during Owen's entrance and takes Owen's spot in the Rumble. So, like, it's kind of a cool. That's where the jump start of the feud happens, is at the Rumble in 98. So those are my two, like, Jeff Jarrett moments. And again, anything in WCW post 1999, he was that shimmer of hope.
Yeah.
And a sea of chicken shit that was the silver and black NWO.
Yeah. Hey. I still want a silver and black NWO hoodie or t-shirt. But I also, like I said, funny thing though, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed this about Jeff Jarrett. The Slapnuts t-shirt. He wears it after he's done with the NWO, but the back of the shirt is the guitar with the NWO logo on it, and he continues to wear it. I would definitely say, if you're doing that late 99, the feud with DDP that leads up to the Arquette storyline into the Triple Cage, I would do that one. But probably my go-to one is 95 Royal Rumble, him and Razor.
Oh yeah, so
That's
good.
a great pick.
I think. You can't. Scott Hall can't have. He has chemistry with everybody.
The psychology of that matchup was great too. Working the leg and Razor selling the leg. The whole so good.
Yeah. That's probably my go-to. Well, folks, that's not everything, Jeff Jarrett, but that's a good chunk of it. So I think I'm gonna call it there. Before we get to the business, XLJ, we got a little plug-a-palooza time. And we got to go ladies first. Guest of honor join us for Jeff Jarrett. Karlee, where can they find you? All your good stuff going on.
Well, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, Kakeface_Karlee. I'm mainly more on TikTok than Instagram. But if you like wrestling, like deathmatch stuff, and like makeup, then check me out.
XLJ?
Well, we've been busy over on Cole TV. You can catch a replay of our SummerSlam vlogs, which we had an amazing time at. You can catch our actual SummerSlam vlog, our GCW in Cleveland's vlog, the Now and Forever show. You can also, this week, we had a new episode of our show, The Hunt, where Jay, Sienna, and B-Roll, and actually this guy above actually makes a brief appearance on there as well, as he phoned into us. But anyways, it was a pretty cool place. We checked out this place called Applejack's Toys, which we found some really cool stuff, and I'll tease you here a little bit, found one of the rarest wrestling items I've ever seen. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well,
yeah, it is a toy that I did not even know existed. So you can catch a replay of that, as well as you can also catch a replay of our where I got to check out a really popular promotion here in Indianapolis, Naptown Pro. They put on their annual Luciana card, so we got a vlog from that out as well. So you can check all that out over on Cole TV, and of course you can find me over on the TikToks, on the Instagram, on all that social under XLJ the OG, and of course you can find me here on Wreckage as well.
Wheel.
I love you, DadHat.
I love you too, man.
I love you, XLJ.
I love you too, buddy.
I love you, Karlee.
Love you too, Will.
I thought she was going to be like, we just met.
Not a fucking chance, Miguel. I am the Will Graham, the host and lead writer of Botchbots and Cheer Shots. If you're interested in my shenanigans elsewhere, you can check that link tree, and you'll see everything I do for Rivet City Radio, Off the Top Media, World Championship Wreckage, and my writing profile for Last Word on Sports.
Well, Jeff Jarrett, gotta say it. Ain't he great?
He is great.
XLJ, you're up, my friend. It is your time to pick the next topic.
Oh, okay.
What are we talking about next time?
I'm excited about this. There's a couple of ideas I've had, but this one I want to go to because this is one of my most fondest childhood memories as a wrestling fan growing up.
So
and I think
not to call you old because we're right up there with you, but that means we're going back a little bit.
We're going back a little bit, and we're talking WCW, which is right in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
I want to talk about something that, like, for me, I look forward to when they did these, and I find the origin story of how they came to be is really awesome. So
I think I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going with this. So I want to take a look back at some of the greatest Clash of the Champions.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I haven't watched some of those in forever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm excited.
Love the Clash. The Clash I was so hyped for, and the fact that it was free on TV.
Yeah.
It didn't get much better than that.
Yep. Oh, I'm excited about that one. Yeah, we will get that one out to you guys sometime next week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, folks, you can find me, DadHat Wrestling, on all social medias, TikTok, X, Instagram, World Championship Wreckage, on all of those as well. Other than Wreckage, there's stuff coming down the line. People gearing back up to, jump back into some things. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more here on the channel. Although, the three of us, look at these faces. But first off, thank you, Karlee, for coming on. I appreciate it. Putting up with us. Thank you. Us three.
This was so much fun.
You are welcome back anytime. And I will lay out the same thing that I did to Sabrina. If there's something you want to cover, open floor, come on. Because after making you talk about Jeff Jarrett, I feel like I owe you the same thing. Anyway, folks, we're going to bounce out of here. But as always, we're going to end it like we do every week. Wise words from Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, baby, I got one more thing to say. Your gas tank is full. Your dipstick is in. Your windows washed. Y'all come back and see me again.